Yo, what's going on guys? Welcome to today's YouTube video. This is going to be my full back session, so I'm going to take you through the entire thing, start to finish, go through every exercise, the reasons why I'm doing them, the reasons why I'm doing it in that specific order. Hopefully that you can take a lot of stuff from this session, just like my leg one that I uploaded. But this is going to be my full back day. I will also be doing this for my other training sessions as well. But let's jump into it. This is going to be my full back day. Obviously, get your pen and paper ready if you want to take down some notes. You can also just like kind of copy and paste this training session if it's one that you want to kind of try out. If you do have access to a gym at the moment, feel free to try out the session and let me know in the comments like how you found it. This is my full back day. Let's jump into it. Okay, welcome to the back session. As always, I'm going to try my best to go through this session and explain kind of what the exercise is, why it's in the order, why we're doing it this way, so on and so forth. So firstly, obviously before we even start the session, I'll always do 15-20 minutes of session-specific kind of drills and warm-ups, so make sure that that is never forgotten because it's really, really important. I don't just go into the first exercise and smash it out like this. Exercise number one is our kind of very own version of a lat pullover. As you can see, we're using a cuff attached to the cable and then obviously bands looped through. Usually you would see these done either on a machine where you're kind of like driving your elbows over your head. Obviously we don't have one of those. The other way that you usually see it is people using a bar. The kind of downside of using a bar is that it puts a lot of stress through your elbows, especially when you get strong at this. It puts a lot of stress through your wrist joint and your elbows. What we found is that we got to a point basically by doing this first, using a bar, that it was doing more harm than good. So we swapped it over and figured out that if you do it with bands instead, you can essentially not have to grip it, and you can just, it takes out basically all the tension from your elbows, from your wrist. We can actually load it up more, get more from it, without actually causing any issues or stress to the joints, or much less anyway. So really, really, really good exercise to do first. Really enjoying this at the moment. I find that it opens just everything up. You get a really nice like kind of stretch in the lat. You get a ridiculous pump. So like in terms of like, it's not all about just chasing the pump. However, like the idea of like the first exercise or two is always to get some blood flow in the muscles that you're training. I like to have exercise first as well that kind of allow you to go through like a big range of motion, allow you to kind of go into the big compounds, feeling very kind of mobile. So I like this exercise first. I just think it's great for various reasons. One of which as well is that it doesn't take much out of you. You can kind of get a lot from it. You can kind of challenge the muscle a lot within that kind of shortened range when it's contracted, both the lats and the traps, and you don't come away from it feeling like fatigued, exhausted. You also don't come away from it having put a lot of kind of stress and impact on the joints. So it is kind of a win-win. It's a really nice exercise to have first. You can kind of get a lot from it without it taking much out of you. Exercise number two, so now we go into the first rowing movement. This is essentially the dumbbell variation of a chest supported row machine. So any sort of seated row that you'd get in a gym, this is kind of the dumbbell version. And I really like this one. I've done it even when it got access to like a full gym. A bit awkward to get into, as you can see. Just make sure that obviously, although it does look a bit stupid having your legs down by your side, it's really important to have them like that. Firstly, obviously, to reduce the risk of injury. You don't really want them on top of the bench. It's just not a stable position. It's not going to allow you to get as much kind of torque at the bottom of the movement. It's not going to allow you to have as much balance and stability, and therefore you're not going to be as strong, not going to be able to get as much from the movement. So make sure you do have your legs down. It does look a bit funny, a bit awkward, but at the same time, it's all for the purpose. Ideally, what you want here, you want to try and keep your chest on the pad. It's not a bad thing to lift it off a little bit. Like naturally, when you're going to do working sets on this, you're going to build up quite a lot of torque at the bottom. Naturally, you're probably gonna, you're gonna naturally want to arch your back a little bit so you can get a better contraction with your lats, with your traps. However, you ideally want to kind of keep your chest on the pad. You don't want it kind of coming right off. I prefer trying to keep my spine, so as you'll see here, you can pretty much put like a ruler like from my ass to my head, and it's all pretty much in line. Like you want your whole posterior chain to be pretty much in line here. And then it's just a case of really trying to get that squeeze at the top. So I think of like driving back through my elbows, So down and back through my elbows, and then essentially you want to see, it's almost a case of seeing how far you can get your shoulders round to the kind of like center of your spine, if that makes sense. Those are kind of the main kind of coaching cues, I guess, within that movement. Next up, so after that we have bent over rows, and I'm sure you're watching this thinking that's not a bent over row. These are the warm-up sets. So how I like to do the warm-up sets for bent over rows at the moment, we'll be doing basically some like RDLs, because we do have deadlifts later on in the session as well, which I'll be going through. So basically to warm up for this, obviously it does put a lot of loading on your like hamstrings, on your glutes, on your lower back, like just basically everywhere. Bent over rows are savage. So big warm up for them. There'll be multiple warm up sets, usually at least kind of like 4 or 5 warm up sets. This is one of them. I think this is the first. I will do some RDLs in that as well, as part of the warm up set, because it's a very similar movement to the bent over row. So yeah, it's just a nice way to kind of warm up for it, essentially, and trying to reduce the risk of injury whilst being as confident as you can when you're going into the working sets. This, I actually missed out recording one of the other warm-up sets, but this is essentially the third warm-up set. So again, you can see the weight's getting significantly heavier here. When it comes to bent over rows as well, there's a big kind of debate about it. I'm sure many people have seen, like, how is the best way to perform bent over row? Yes, you want to be bent over, but no, you don't want to be kind of like at a 90-degree angle parallel with the floor. It's going to create like way too much kind of tension on your like erectors and hips in an angle which doesn't really make any sense, especially when you're doing something like deadlifts. Just the kind of risk to reward is not worth it. So these are kind of a bent over row, but you are a little bit more upright. Reason being, again, in this session, I would do them a little bit more upright than usual. Try and target the traps a little bit more than the lats, and obviously we do have deadlifts later on in the session, so I don't want to completely like fuck my erectors up, which are the kind of the small muscles that connect your basically like your back to your ass. Those obviously get tested a lot in deadlifts, and I don't want to smash them up doing this. So as you'll see, this is going to be I think that was the first working set that you just saw, maybe. I think it was. This is the second working set, I believe. Again, it's 150, I think, for my top set, and then I'll do a second kind of back off every now and again. So I believe this is the back off. As you can see, hips back, so push your ass back. Make sure that your knees are always bent. Don't drive through your legs and straighten your legs. Make sure your hips are back. Keep your hips back, and then always look up a little bit and keep your back arched, because when you're doing any sort of row movement, you want some form of arch in your lower back so that you can get the full contraction. Next up, we have pull-ups. So realistically, the main reason that these are here is literally just to almost like decompress your spine. Going into like another deadlift or another row movement after doing bent over rows is just going to feel horrible. I like just having some sort of pull down. I think this is in the wrong order, but yeah, we've got oh no, it's not, this is deadlift, but yeah, we've got pull-ups in the middle, just to essentially like get some sort of overhead movement. Usually I'll have a lat pull down in there, but we've got pull-ups for now. Decompress your spine, try and make you feel a little bit more alive again, and then we're into deadlifts. So as you can see now, into deadlifts, this is the first warm-up set. So because we've done so much like bent over rows and stuff, there's not really a need to do loads and loads of warm-up sets for these. We're already pretty warmed up, pretty much in the kind of move for it. I believe this is the second warm-up set. I think I did 2 or 3 warm-up sets, then into working sets. Again, with one variation, we have banded kind of elevated deadlifts, and then these ones, this is the first time doing conventional deadlifts in a couple months, so nothing special, but they did feel pretty good. Again, deadlifts, there's a hell of a lot of cues to these. I would always suggest just like, don't focus too much on the weight that you're lifting. Like, always focus on the form over everything else, especially with something like deadlifts. Some people will naturally be really, really strong at these just because they're structurally built to deadlift. They will have, it all shapes and sizes, but You'll see people who have their like lats who are inserted into their hips, for example. They have like short torsos. They have their like legs are just like, their bodies are just structurally built to deadlift. They've got long arms, and they can essentially like them doing a deadlift is basically the same as normal people like myself doing a rack pull, so they're naturally going to be able to lift a lot more. There's nothing wrong with you if you can't lift that much doing a deadlift. It is one of those exercises like squatting where genetics comes into play massively with it. But going away from that, the main sort of cues really are just to make sure that you keep a neutral spine, make sure that you are obviously pushing your hips back, getting a good amount of kind of leg drive in there, so you don't essentially want to start it with your legs already pretty straight. You can put a lot more stress on your kind of back, on your hamstrings, and that's kind of more of a stiff leg deadlift. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Shrugs next. So these again, it's another kind of more of a softer exercise, more for the actual movement itself, like for scapular health, for specific like kind of trap targeting. So I'll have these next. There'll never be anything particularly heavy. Usually I would have some sort of machine variation for traps in after this, but obviously you don't have access to that, so shrugs it is. And then obviously to follow up, we've got what is essentially kind of like a reverse fly using cuffs. Again, these are really light, and it's more to have that specific movement in there. I think it's always good to have a nice range of different movements and take your kind of joints through all the different movements within kind of a given session or over the course of a program, just for functionality, just to make sure that you are actually training everything. So like here you can kind of see, by performing, you can kind of see how everything works. Even I'm pretty fat, you can see that we are going through the full range of motion. Everything is relaxing and stretching out, and then everything is contracting. The idea again here is almost try and keep your arms straight, as straight as possible, and then what I try and think of doing is driving my kind of elbows back and touching them like behind my back. Obviously that's not going to be possible, but if you focus on doing that, you will make sure that you get that full contraction, and make sure that you're not just kind of doing half reps. So as you can see, like I will slightly change position through a movement, and never be afraid to change movement a little bit through an exercise if needed. But that is basically the full session. A little bit rushed. I always forget like how little time I've got to speak about something, but I hope you could take at least something away from these sessions. This is obviously current condition at 26 weeks out, nothing special, but definitely built up some more size on my back since last time around. But thank you guys for watching the session. Hopefully you can take something away from this one. Any questions, obviously feel free to ask. Right, and there you have it. Back session at 26 weeks out now until my first competition this year. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will be doing more of these. The next one will probably be of my chest or push day, as people like to call it these days. And then I've also got an arm day that I will be running through. So there's 2 more training sessions to come. Also got a full day of eating videos to come as well, so make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Give it a like or a thumbs up, whatever you want to do. If you've enjoyed it and watched it this far, any questions, drop them down in the comments. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone who has supported the channel so far, everyone who has been watching the series, the prep series, means a lot. Again, anything you want in terms of kind of video content, YouTube content, feel free to let me know down in the comments, and I will be taking into account any kind of suggestions that people do give. Obviously this series is essentially for you guys. I don't get anything from this. It's just literally just a case of documenting my prep and kind of giving back to the people that have supported me over the last few years in regards to like bodybuilding. So thank you guys for watching. Any questions, you know what to do, and I'll see you in the next one.